mentioned voting rights. Let me say about this. How dare liberals in the Democratic Party think they can use voting rights as a way to sheep herd me back into the party? Now, let me ask you guys this. Let me ask this guys this, and this is a hypothetical question because no one ran the numbers yet. There's an estimate, but let me propose this to you guys. Do you guys have any idea how many black men lost their voting rights due to the legislation that Joe Biden implemented in his career? They did an estimate where they was tolling how many people lost his voting rights because of Joe Biden in the crime bill, and the numbers were around 5 million. So there haven't been a report on that. Just take the number of the percentage of black people with felons, and then just take that percentage from 5 million. That's how many black men lost their voting rights because of Joe Biden. But they want to say they're the party for democracy. They was actively kicking third party candidates off the ballots, but they're the party of democracy. And now, the Democrats couldn't do anything about that. Cori Bush forced a vote on eliminating, still stripping the rights of convicted felons. Didn't get any coverage on news. I covered it on my show. And you guys know that over half of the Democrats voted against restoring voting rights for people with convicted felons. So what did that tell you? Once again, I tell people to reframe the issue. That means over half the Democratic Party supports the new Jim Crow. Because the new Jim Crow was a system designed by pushing the drug war, by pushing broken windows policing. This was designed to give black people and disenfranchised people felonies so they couldn't vote. So while the Democratic Party upholding that, they are supportive of the new Jim Crow. So they can't say anything to me about voting rights. I dare them.
No, you're right. And there's actually, it's not theoretical. It's a fact. It actually came out later that they said that Nixon had written memos and there was writing on it from people who worked for him, that it was a fact, that they said that the drug war was created because black people and liberal hippies were agitating about the Vietnam War and were trying to fight for civil rights. So that they created the war on drugs because they wanted to criminalize those people. Specifically those people. Like, there is writing on it. There is writing about it. Like, how can we criminalize these people more? They already criminalized black people. But then as black people were fighting for more rights and to secure those rights, and then there was anti-war activists, college students, hippies, people who were doing psychedelics, they actually criminalized all of those. And that actually had really harmful effects on the mental health benefits of possible, psychedelics and other drugs and marijuana that could be studied for use. They criminalized those because they wanted to put people in jail and they wanted to be able to stop them from voting. And I was reading about this when I was reading about why they haven't studied psychedelics for mental health uses, because they didn't want for those things to be legal or to be studied because they still wanted to criminalize people for using them.
Yeah, when you brought up the crime bill, it struck a nerve because I know it affected my own father, and I'm a victim of that because of that bill. The fact that it divided so many black families, especially in the early 90s, late mid 90s. People want to forget about it and forgive Joe Biden. Like, how do you forgive that? You don't. I just can't. And I have this. I want to say conversation, but it turned into an argument. I'm not going to say with who, but I'll say I had this argument a few times with people that say, "Oh, he's changed. He's sorry. He said he's sorry. He's sorry. He's sorry for calling us the N-word. He's sorry for he changed." And I get it. Okay, he changed. Yeah, he may be sorry, but it happened. It happened. I can't forget. Yeah, I can forgive, but I can't forget. And we don't expect him. You can't change what's the word? How you say? Can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Yeah.
That's exactly how I look at it. It don't matter what you put in office. They all got their own agenda. And we all know that agenda is not with the working class people. It's not with the minorities. It's not with our communities at all. You mentioned
that you was a victim of the crime bill. And I mean, this is kind of why I started Fairhampton Leftists. And this is why people need to start listening to black leftist voices more. Because whenever I listen to even white leftists talk about this issue, it's kind of glossed over. And this is why I hate the lesser two evil argument. Like, yeah, crime bill destroyed the black community. And then they just move on. Like, do you guys know the impact that is? I know people who lives been ruined by the crime bill. Almost every young black man knows someone who was screwed over by the crime bill. So this is why I hate the lesser two evils argument, because lesser two evils argument to me is inherently racist. Why do I say that? Because black people are only 13% of the population. So if you go by the lesser two evil argument, the argument is we got to prevent the most evil possible. So if you have that philosophy, that makes it easy for you to like, oh yeah, this guy horrible. He got anti-black policies, but not that many people. Only 13% of the population. That's the lesser two evil. Meanwhile, our lives have been absolutely ruined by Joe Biden's crime bill. And I love how you brought the history of how they wanted to disenfranchise people using the drug war, right? So my question is, why is Joe Biden still complicit with that? So this is why I want people to ask themselves if they still play into this red-blue nonsense. The best way to illustrate why the red-blue game is nonsense, because I want you guys to realize that Joe Biden is to the right of Republican voters on the issue of marijuana and the issue of healthcare. So the red-blue game is a fraud, and the idea that him and once again, the crime bill is just one thing. Because a lot of people don't talk about the bankruptcy bill as well. So when you combine the crime bill and the bankruptcy bill, I've been saying this for a while, ever since I've been a political commentator, and no one be able to put it back on me. I said Joe Biden is the most anti-black public servant in the last 40, 50 years. I'm not going to go before Jim Crow and all that stuff, but in the modern age of America, I dare someone to find a public official who done more damage to the black community. And if you want to people, and people got mad at me for saying this, but no one can debunk me. I say, if you believe that Donald Trump done more damage to the black community in 4 years compared to what Joe Biden did in 40, you are out of your mind. And let me explain, and then I'll get right back to you because I have to dive into this. Because the crime bill is the one everyone talk about for good reason, because it's very significant on how it ruined black Americans, right? The bankruptcy bill got almost no play by the media. Even progressive media didn't talk about it. I dived into it. Do you guys know that Joe Biden voted against an amendment that would ease the burden of those suffering from medical debt? Do you guys know Joe?
I actually didn't know that because I saw it on Joe.
Yeah. So once again, I connect all these issues to disenfranchised communities. You guys know that despite only being 13% of the population, black people hold 35% of the country's medical debt. So Joe Biden is complicit with the healthcare trauma that the black Americans going through. He created a student loan debt crisis, right? Now, once again, black women, they pay the most in student loan debt than any other demographic, with black men being right behind them. So the crime bill is the easy one to point to as being anti-black, but Joe Biden, with his subservience to the credit card companies, with him pushing the bankruptcy bill, he voted against an amendment that would make it easier to go after people who commit financial fraud. And so one thing that happened during the 2008 financial crisis was a lot of Wall Street banks was illegally foreclosing on homes of African Americans. So if Joe Biden had his way, it would have been way harder to go after those people. So it's like, not only do you have the crime bill, and then we can dive even more into that. Like, you have civil asset forfeiture that black people are affected around 70% of the time. And civil asset forfeiture, the government steals more money that way than people lose their money through criminal burglary. So now put those two together. Black people are like over 50%. Those numbers are based on regional. They don't do national for those numbers. But when I wrote on piece, like if you look at any local area, it's around 50 to 60% of black people are affected by civil asset forfeiture. That's why racial income inequality is as bad as it is during the civil rights era. The combination of the crime of the prison industrial complex imposing regressive taxes on us, the bankruptcy bill allowing us to be being predatory by Wall Street. So all these things connect, and all these things Joe Biden is responsible to. Meanwhile, progressives had the nerve to tell me I should vote for him.
You know what? I can't debunk you, bro.